Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bitter Realtor Podcast. I'm Joey Rockenstein, your host, and sitting with me today, this is very exciting, none other than branch manager of the Studio City in Sherman Oaks Coldwell Banker offices, Wendy Davis.
Hello!
Hey, hello!
Thanks for having me here today, Joey.
I mean, this is so great to have a branch manager on this podcast that nobody watches. So, this is very exciting.
I watch it.
It's always good to have your manager on the show so you can score some brownie points, let me tell you. So this is great. But I'm excited for this because you bring a great perspective to today's topic, which is why are buyers so hesitant in the real estate market right now, which is a very poignant topic to discuss because buyers are slow to pull the trigger. But you have an interesting perspective because you're not only a successful branch manager, you're also a successful real estate coach, you're also a very successful team leader of the Wendy Davis Group. So I think you have like a very unique eye on what's been going on in the market. So I say let's just jump into it and kind of find out, why do you think buyers are a little bit slow to pull the trigger nowadays?
Yeah, well, I think there's many reasons why, that's a fact. But one of the biggest ones, I believe, is the low inventory,
And that's been a huge problem now it's been several years we've had low inventory. And I don't see that problem going away anytime soon, especially now that we've had the unfortunate events here in Los Angeles of the fires.
Exactly. And why would a seller want to sell when they bought into a 3%, 2.5% interest rate?
Right.
I mean, it kind of blows their mind when we ask them, oh, well, do you want to sell? They're like, are you crazy?
Right. Like, my payment's going to double.
Exactly.
So,
and where am I going to go? Right. That's the next question they ask.
And don't even get me started on that, because I think the 3% interest rate completely ruined the real estate industry at some point, because that contributed to the inventory problem, because those people that were going to sell are like, I'm not going to sell now. My monthly payment's too low. Why would I do that?
Exactly. I hear you.
So the other thing is that pre-pandemic, the average days on market was about 80 days in Los Angeles. Pandemic, it was about 25 days, considering the low interest rates and the intense buyer demand that was happening. And now we're seeing kind of a normalization where it's about 73 days on market to sell a house. So people aren't used to that. They're not used to houses taking longer to sell. We were spoiled, like we talked about during the pandemic. So how is it like that buyers are contributing to that? Like, they're not pulling the trigger because these houses, for example, my house in Sherman Oaks, I've had it on the market since November, and
your new construction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're priced at $882 a square foot for brand new construction in Sherman Oaks.
That's
a steal.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But still, no offers yet. Soon, but not yet. So we're just wondering, why are buyers kind of waiting? Is it smart to wait for the rates to drop or for prices to drop? What do you think about that?
Well, I just think that it also has to do with politics.
Big time.
People are scared. They're fearful.
So we're saying that there's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world right now. And this is not a political show, but we're just stating the obvious that people, no matter what side that you're on, there's always going to be that uncertainty of when a new administration comes in and wondering, what are they going to do, and am I going to get used to this at some point?
Exactly. So they just sit back and wait, and every day, with real estate's changing every single day.
Absolutely.
Rates are changing every day. So, you're either in or you're out, I believe. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, where those who waited in 2020, they missed out.
Big time. Yeah.
They were fearful back then too.
I mean, fear is a very common thing in real estate, so let's just be straightforward with that. But yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that, what happened to those people during the pandemic who waited. But the interest rates have been fluctuating, since the late 70s. And people who may have been waiting in the early 80s for interest rates to drop, I think they were waiting until the Clinton administration, because that's when they finally went back down to a 7 or 8%. So I think one of the other things too is that there's the sticker shock of buyers are so fearful about overpaying for a house because the prices are high here in Los Angeles.
Yep.
They're not coming down. Sorry to let everybody know about that.
Well, that's another reason why buyers aren't jumping right in, because they're also waiting for
Right.
prices to drop. I highly doubt they're going to be dropping.
I mean, even if they do drop, like, what is the significant amount for a house to drop for a buyer to be like, okay, I'm in?
Well, that goes back to the interest rates, because of the fact that we're in a space right now where, you know, the norm is $1 million home.
Right.
Literally, that's a starter home
Totally.
now. $1 million. I mean, it used to be where we were at, like, you know, a 6, 7, right? And then now it's jumped to like above 850, 900 to $1 million. So I mean, it's tough out there.
Yeah. In 2015, my wife and I bought our house for $730,000 in Sherman Oaks.
Well, there you go. And that house now is above $1 million. Yeah, about $1.3 million.
Like, I could not afford that house now.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. Like, I was lucky to buy it then.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so you add the increase in price, and now you're adding the interest rate. So literally, people, I feel like families are combining or gelling together and buying homes together because of the fact that one family can't afford the mortgage anymore.
Correct.
Trying to get into it at a 7% interest rate, or, you know, in the highs, that's a lot of money.
Exactly. And if you talk to like Guaranteed Rate, like Bruce or Julie, they will tell you that a lot of families are doing that to build generational wealth. Mm-hmm. They're having the whole family come in, or the parents are helping their kids mm-hmm. by giving them the down payment that they need to be able to buy that house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And then some buyers just wondering like, well, why don't I just wait so I can just pay less? And it's just funny because you mentioned during the pandemic where people who waited, mm-hmm. they actually ended up paying more when they finally got into the market.
Exactly.
Because, like we said, the housing prices aren't coming down. Like, on a conservative side, houses are appreciating here in Los Angeles by at least 4% every year, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. even in a down market.
And that's because whenever there's low inventory, I mean, that's the demand, right? Demand and supply rule, right? So, I mean, there's so much more demand. I mean, there are buyers out there. However, there's not enough inventory. And if you're looking in the price point of anywhere between $500 to $1 million, I mean, you're actually going into a competitive market
Extremely.
As a buyer.
Yes.
So that makes it even tougher to get into a home.
I will say this. So you brought up a great point. Like, at that price point, like 500 to $1 million, a lot of competition, because that's really like the first time home buyer realm right there. Then once you start getting to maybe like $1.5 million to $2 million, you have a different type of buyer who maybe they've already bought one home, maybe they bought a condo, and now they're ready to kind of move up. And then there's the price points of like $2.5 million to maybe $3 million, which is kind of where one of my houses is at, and it's crickets, because that buyer pool really has become extremely picky.
Yes.
Is one of the things that I've noticed. And actually, the one thing that we want to talk about is called the HGTV effect, which is where buyers have become so picky that they're willing to pass on a home if it's not perfect. Now, again, depending on your price point, but especially with first-time home buyers, you know, they see these houses like on Property Brothers or, you know, whatever, like Fix and Flip or one of those shows. And they're like, oh man, they bought that house for like, you know, a couple $100,000 and now it's worth like $1 million because they fixed it up. Like, that's what I want, but I want a home that's already fixed up.
But I also believe it's because of the fact that they're so tight in budget. Because of the fact that they can't really afford the home they're buying to begin with. Their down payment's going on this property as much as possible. And so they're like, if I buy a home that I have to fix, I don't have the money to fix it. So I need to go out there and find a home that's already kind of remodeled so that I can just, you know, move in, turnkey kind of thing, because I don't have the cash flow.
Right, but I think that's important to remember based off that point, is that something I've talked about before, is that you gotta have like a needs versus want list when you're going out shopping for houses.
Yes.
So then you can see these things that you have to have that's on your need list, and maybe this thing that's on your want list, if it doesn't have that, you're okay with that. You can still go for that house.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where it comes, like having a good agent comes into play to be able to direct you.
A good agent like Joey, right over here, everybody. He'll help you make those decisions. I think you're right. I think that's where a great agent comes in, to be able to open their mind or their perspective to see things differently.
Right. It's all about setting expectations.
Yep.
Like, I think you need to go into it having these expectations set and constantly being reminded of what that expectation is, so you don't kind of like go off the rails of when you're looking to buy a house, because you really have to kind of like be very goal oriented and know exactly what you want, have that list, and know the houses that you're looking at because you have a pre-approval letter, so you know your price point.
I always feel buyers always want 20% more.
Oh, totally.
Of what they can afford.
What is it? They have like a champagne dreams and a beer budget?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes one of the things I used to throw out there to the team was like, hey, if you have a buyer, always show them property that's about 10% or 20% less than what their budget is, because a buyer's always going to go want the property that's 10 or 20% more.
Right. And that's also important because at that price point, you probably are going to get into a multiple offer situation where you're going to be bidding up above your budget. And then you're out because you can't go any higher than that.
Exactly.
So that's, again, expectations are so important to be set in that.
Yep.
And the other thing is too, like we talked about world events, and I think with everything that's been going on in the world, that's causing a huge amount of uncertainty, and especially the uncertainty like in the stock market, because people are watching TV consistently. They're watching the media, whatever news channel you watch, and the news channels are constantly talking about wars that are going on, how it's affecting the stock market, what's going on with interest rates, and it's causing a lot of fear for these buyers.
So what are you telling your buyers in these circumstances? I
mean, I kind of have to like present to them as much factual information as I can. Because I can't tell them to stop watching the news, because I don't want to tell people what to do.
I was just at the dentist the other day, and they put a big old TV in front of me with the news. I'm like, I'm like, They're like, what are you trying to say? I'm like, I don't want to watch the news. That's garbage.
Weren't you telling me the other day that your mom watches the news?
Yeah, if I want to know what's happening out there, I just call mom, you know? Mom knows that she's like, she'll give me the update. But my point, back to your point, like, I really believe that people are being brainwashed.
Totally.
And so that is where you as an agent have to be really good at being able to talk to the client and to the buyer to make them understand the opportunities.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that you tell your buyers?
Well, let me start with this example, because last year I feel like the real estate industry really got beat up a lot because of the lawsuits that were going on. And when I was working with some home buyers, I would ask them directly, I said, what have you heard about these lawsuits? And so I would let them, tell me everything that they've heard. Yeah. And that's when I would kind of step in and give them the information of like, well, here's what's happening with the buyer representation agreements, okay? Here's what's happening with those lawsuits, and these are why the lawsuits happen. But in California, we have very strict and specific wording in our contracts that let both sides know exactly what's going on with both sides. Like who's paying what commission, who's paying this dollar amount of it, who's paying for what. So I really like to take my buyers through every single step of the home buying process. So if they see something on the news or on a reality show and they come back to me, all you Vanderpump Rules fans out there. So when they come to me and ask me these things, I can be like, well, this is actually how it really happens.
Well, one of the things that we're doing on our end with the team is we're talking to the buyers about the buy downs.
Yes.
When it comes to their mortgage and purchasing a home. A lot of them actually don't really understand what that means. They get a little stuck on well, that's not for me because, I'm gonna get stuck on a high, mortgage payment because we can't predict the future. Well, how are you managing that?
So, great question, because the buy downs are really coming into play, especially right now. And I feel that it's a great way for both sides, meaning the buyer and the seller, to kind of like win, because if you write up your purchase agreement correctly and you're writing in a buy down, let's say you're going to do like a 3-2-1 buy down.
Yep.
So let's say the 3-2-1 buy down is going to cost, because if I can explain this quickly and make everybody understand, a 3-2-1 buy down, for example, the first year you would be buying down the rate to like in the high 3s. The second year it would be in the high 4s. The third year it would be in the high 5s. And then the year after that it would be the market rate. And at that time the rate should be lower than it was 3 years ago, and you could just refinance into a lower rate.
Right. Or you can refi in between.
Right.
You can.
Yes.
That's really like the goal there.
Yeah.
It's like, let's go ahead and take a risk and be able to refi the loan in between because interest rates are going to come down.
Right.
And we are seeing a little bit of that.
And there is the buy down portion of this. So it does cost money to do that. And so what I've been telling my clients, and I've been consulted with, guaranteed rate. Bruce has talked to me a lot about this.
Yep.
You bake the buy down price. Let's say the buy down price is $80,000 for the 321. You put that into the purchase amount.
That's right.
And that way the seller kicks it back to the buyer.
Yep. But we're not mortgage brokers.
No,
but
don't
we're
take
just,
my advice.
But we're giving you we're giving you a little bit of a tip of what you can do.
Right. Leave it to the manager to throw out the disclaimer on
Ah!
that. So I guess it brings us to the final point of what is the biggest risk of doing nothing? Why are buyers hesitant? Shouldn't you, if you have the means to buy, you've saved up 20% for your down payment, you have money for closing costs, you finally found that house. Is there a reason to not jump in and buy even if the interest rates are higher right now?
Well, I mean, there's plenty of reasons that buyers are thinking they shouldn't jump in, but I think it has to, honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's really having a great agent like yourself that can sit down with the buyer, break down the process, the numbers, because it's a numbers game when it comes to their fear. Their fear is all about the mortgage payment. And if they have someone like yourself who can sit down with them and say, here's what your payments will be, here's how we can buy it down, here's how you can get this home, and really empower that buyer to feel like they can do it because they have the means, their financial means are in place, then I really truly believe it comes down to the communication of the buyer's agent, the selling agent.
It's like Tom Ferry says, be the knowledge broker.
That's right. That's right.
Knowledge is power, and I think that's so smart to say that because you need to pass that knowledge on to your clients because that's how you're providing value to them. You need to show them the numbers. You need to actually do the work and break it down for them so they can see what their payments are going to be, how things are going to work. Maintenance of the house as well. You need to cover the entire gamut of being a homeowner on this. So I would say if you have the means, you should try to buy now because
don't miss out.
Yeah.
Don't miss out. Don't be like the people in 2020. They missed out because of fear. So I mean, I know that we're sitting in a interesting era of real estate, but if you've got the means and you can make it happen, jump in.
Because there's less competition now too. So if you want to get a deal on a house, I would say now is kind of a good time to try to get that deal because
absolutely.
Yes, houses are taking longer to sell and that's normal, but also sellers want to sell. So put something in front of them to start that discussion.
Absolutely.
Right?
So if you have the means, go out there and buy now.
Absolutely. That's well said. If you have any questions about anything that we just talked on the show today about why buyers are being hesitant, if you need a referral to some loan officers, or if you just want to know what comps are in your neighborhood, you can reach out to me and Wendy. I'm going to put our contact information in the show notes. Wendy, this has been such a great experience having you on the show. I appreciate this so much. Thanks for doing it. Hopefully you'll be back for more.
Thank you, Joey. It was a lot of fun to be here.